Morning, y'all. Hope you're all good and in great spirits. The other day, I watched a small portion of a YouTube channel's conversation. It was three vatos, Rasa, and they were discussing creation versus evolution. As part of their conversation, they seemed to mock evolutionists for what they believed was the implication that a fish can have lungs and gills. It seemed like their argument was, well, we can't come from fish because we have lungs. Are you telling me that a fish had lungs and gills? That was kind of like the delivery and the rhetoric. They were asking the audience, like, how stupid is this? A fish has lungs and gills, and we came from that. I don't think we came from fish. I believe God created me. But their argument is flawed. Here's why. I'll start with an amphibian because that's the lowest hanging fruit. An amphibian is like a frog, a toad, a newt, a salamander. When they begin their lives, they start as eggs in a body of water. Those eggs hatch and you get tadpoles, which are fish-like creatures. They have gills, they have fins, they don't have arms, legs, or lungs. And they live like that for a while. Once they get to adolescence, little arms start popping out of their body, little legs start popping out of their body, their tail, which is like their method of propulsion through the water, their fin, so to speak, shrinks, and their gills start to go away and they develop lungs. At which point, this wholly aquatic animal becomes a terrestrial animal. Now it lives on land. It does have to go back to the water to not dry out, but when it's in the water, now it's breathing through lungs. It started its life with gills and developed lungs so that it can go on water. There are fish, not amphibians, fish in Africa that live in ponds created by monsoons, the rainy season. After the rainy season, a lot of these ponds dry out. There's a thing called the African lungfish, which I believe has gills and lungs. And when the ponds dry out, it goes deep, deep, deep into the mud, balls itself up, and then it breathes through its lungs. Sometimes for as long as a year until the rains come back again. It's just this fish dried out in a puddle of mud until the water comes back, and then it becomes an aquatic animal, a fish again, breathing through gills. I believe that's the case. I could be wrong, but there's also the climbing perch. The climbing perch, I believe, is also an African fish that lives in ponds created by the monsoons. During the drought, as the monsoon ponds dry out, this fish, a perch, a climbing perch it's called, will walk out of the water on its pectoral fins. I don't know if it has lungs or some type of other mechanism that allows it to store oxygen, but it will walk from one pond to another, sometimes over the course of days. This is a fish that leaves the water to look for another pond because its pond is drying out and it knows it will die if it doesn't do that. So I guess what robbed me the wrong way, not that they're trying to prove creation because that's what I believe, but the mocking nature of evolutionists using incredibly flawed logic, not based on anything except hubris, thinking you know something when you don't. And what was amazing was just this army of Raza complementing this intellectual conversation. that really was mocking people for things they believe those people promote, but that actually exists today. The climbing perch is not extinct. The lungfish is not extinct. Every single day, amphibians are living. Every spring, they're laying eggs, creating tadpoles. So, in a conversation with someone who is educated, their credibility is gone, like right off the top, because they were trying to mock something. And really, we're exposing their own lack of understanding and knowledge. One of the guys I always said, oh, like in making fun of the evolutionists and the lungs and the gills, using terms that don't apply at all to this conversation. And I think, I guess what gets me is just the arrogance of being an intellectual based on wholly flawed knowledge. I think it discredits our raza in greater society. You might be a rock star to this marginalized niche of people, but in real society, man, you'll get laughed at for that shit. That's like anyone who's ever taken a 7th grade biology class knows about amphibians and their starting life with lungs that become gills. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. I wish people would not be so arrogant in mocking other people's beliefs, because it doesn't make us look good, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. Have a good one.